Agro-industrial firm Ellah Lakes has agreed to a deal to buy out Agro-Allied Resources and Processing Nigeria Limited, owned by Singapore-based Tolaram Group and Value Star Holdings Pte. Now, the transaction is expected to be completed by December. The acquisition will hand the ownership of 11,783 hectares of cultivated land, 2,093 hectares of cassava plantations, and 10,393 hectares of farmland to be cultivated to Ellah Lakes, the company stated in a regulatory filing. Chuka, Mordi, CEO of Ellah Lakes PLC, joins me now to discuss this further. Chuka, good morning. Many thanks for joining us. A pleasure to have you here on the program. Well, huge congratulations. This is a big deal to begin with. Right. Let's begin with what this acquisition really means for Ellah Lakes' growth strategy.
Okay, it's a very significant and transformational transaction for us. We've always had a dual strategy of trying to grow by organically, and we always felt if we had any good opportunistic transactions in the M&A space, we would take advantage of them. This multiplies our size by almost 20x. It brings a significant amount of cash flow onto our balance sheet, so it's very value accretive for our shareholders.
All right. How long ago, how far back would you say this process began?
I mean, we went from signing a term sheet to negotiating a sale and purchase agreement, so it's been ongoing for the best part of the year, but we had to finally agree on final definitive terms before we could announce to the stock exchange.
Right,
so
certainly.
It's taken a while to consummate, but we're glad we finally arrived at
like
that.
Here we are now. Yes. Right. Well, in what ways would this deal strengthen Nigeria's agro-allied value chain and, of course, boost local production, because that's very important, I would imagine?
Yeah. I mean, it's generating a lot of cash flow already. I think the consolidation helps in terms of economies of scale, in terms of growing our margins, and in consolidating the oil palm space. I think we have a lot of assistance that we're giving to smallholders in our vicinity. In Edo State, I think we can add a lot of value in terms of modern practices we're bringing to smaller shareholders around us, in terms of helping their margins, in terms of just increasing yields. I think the R&D that will grow in our sector for us. And so I think in terms of the agro-allied space, it's going to add a lot of value to us.
Right. And of course, the multiplier effect is always very important as well, which one would imagine that it will have a huge rollout effect on. What opportunities does this acquisition create for farmers, smallholder farmers maybe, also processors and the rural communities?
I think the key thing is scale. There's crude palm oil, which we will sell, which we are selling already with Ellah Lakes, but it means we can move up the value chain. We expect that in the next few years we'll be refining, we'll be doing oleins, we'll be doing stearins, so agro-industrial products for the industrial space. So we'll be doing both retail and industrial.
Over the course of time?
Over the course of the next 5 years, that's part of our growth strategy.
Oh, that's a very interesting one. Let's talk about this particular event. In what ways can mergers like this drive industrialization within Nigeria's agricultural sector?
So I think two things. It shows it's possible, it can be done. I think it's very helpful that we're in the capital market, so being listed on the stock exchange means we have access to the quantum of financing required to close a transaction like this. In the listed space, there's Okomu, there's Presco. They're much larger than us, but obviously that's the kind of competition we like, because it means we have something to aspire to. But I think mergers like this and deals like this show that this sort of scale is achievable, and I think if other people are doing it, then it means we're bringing more efficiency and consolidation to the space in Nigeria.
Right, certainly. And it'll be great to shed some more light into some of the key challenges. It's great to know that it's possible, but what are those, what are the blocks that, any potential mergers could face, or you probably have faced in the past getting to this, in terms of how we could peel those layers back a little bit more?
Well, I wouldn't say blocks per se. I would say every enterprise has its challenges and hurdles to surmount. One, you have to find a deal that makes sense, a deal that is value accretive, a deal that is actually adding value for the shareholders. So I think that's the most difficult part, trying to find something that merges with what you're doing and you can consolidate within your group. So that was the difficult part, finding something in their growth trajectory that matched with our growth trajectory and made a lot of sense for shareholders. So that was the difficult part. I mean, agreeing terms, understanding your market, understanding the kind of value paying the right price. Those are all challenges that one has to surmount and deal with. And the key thing is to have a quality team. And I think we have a very, very good team at Ellah Lakes and transaction advisors. So we've appointed all our transaction advisors. We expect we should be coming to the market inside the next 1 to 2 weeks following SEC clearance and all the regulatory clearances from the Nigerian Stock Exchange and from SEC. So those are the challenges and the issues around what we're trying to do, but they're all primarily regulatory and a necessary aspect of what we have to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Would you say that these challenges are unique to Nigeria if you were trying to do this with a completely different, within a different terrain?
I don't think, when you say unique to Nigeria, maybe on the operational side, yes, because there are a variety of challenges from infrastructure, in terms of power, in terms of land. But on the regulatory side, I think these are necessary things we have to go through. But I would say it's helpful because it means there's institutional support and we have a variety of institutional investors that we have access to in terms of funding and in terms of financing. On the operational side, of course, Nigeria has its own challenges, infrastructure, manpower, expertise, capacity, but that's what we're trying to grow. And I think when we scale up in this fashion, we make it easier to bring capacity onto our platform and have a bigger, better business that generates more money and revenue for shareholders.
Right, absolutely. Let's open up just a little bit more, still on challenges. You know, there's a lot to celebrate. This is great news, but let's just zoom the lens a little bit more and look at the agro-allied industry itself. What challenges exist from infrastructure to financing?
I mean, one can view challenges in a variety of ways. The challenges in the oil palm space, which is where we're focused on, I view as an opportunity. Nigeria is still a net importer of palm oil. We're growing oil palm, we're producing into CPO, crude palm oil, and we're also moving down the chain to produce palm kernel oil, PKO. But we import a lot of this, and I think from an import substitution perspective, I see it less as a challenge, but more as an opportunity. It means there's a significant space to fill and generate even greater revenues. So that's the upside from a transaction of this size. It's costing us over 100 billion naira. I mean, we'll have more information on the actual financing once we open the public offer in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So that's where I see the opportunity. I think helping smallholders, consolidating the industry, like I said, you know, higher margins, economies of scale. And I think I prefer to look at these things in terms of the opportunities. Without doubt, you know, with inflation at 23%, one has to navigate these issues. Infrastructure is also something of a challenge because you have to drive from farm gate to market, and that's something that the state has to manage. That's a government policy issue, but we just have to manage these things as best as we can.
Absolutely. So you did mention that we expect to see a rollout on about 2 to 3 weeks from now?
We should the public offer should be opening inside the next 2 weeks.
Right. Yes. And what expectations should the public have of this rollout in relation to some of the points you just highlighted now?
I mean, obviously, I cannot make forward-looking statements because we're listed, but I think it's priced in a way that people understand we are giving value to shareholders. We've talked for a while about looking for a transaction that made economic sense and grew us in a transformational way, and this is it. There are a variety of other transactions we're looking at, which, when consummated, I think we can go public with. But this is the first step in the long-term strategic growth of Ellah Lakes PLC.
Right. So lots to look forward to. One would imagine we have to wait around and see. Well, let's round up by looking at policies and partnerships. Yes. As we know, policies many times are a bedrock of, you know, you're building stuff, but then you also need a strong foundational point to sit it on. What policies or partnerships are needed to secure the future of Nigeria's agro-allied sector, in your opinion?
Well, I think we have pretty good policies from a government perspective. It's about implementation of the policies and creating the right environment for local businesses to thrive. So, you know, we just had the release of the government's integrated livestock policy. And if you have the correct environment with, I'm not a big fan of tariffs, but if you have specific government subsidies aimed at growing the local local companies, trying to create national champions, making sure that there's the right expertise and capacity being grown for the sector, helping with research, development. R&D is very important. Capacity building is extremely important. And I think those levers can help significantly grow local companies, and that's what we want to do. Grow local companies, contribute to the economy, make money, pay tax, and have a better society.
Right, so starting right from the bedrock and then leading to the multiplier effect. All right, if you joined us midway, I've been chatting with Chuka Mordi of Ellah Lakes on the acquisition of Agro-Allied Resources and Processing Nigeria Limited. Of course, very fantastic news and great work. Many thanks for joining us as always, Chuka. And we'll see you again very soon.